Welcome to a Legendarium special about Hernando de Soto, the Iron Conquistador. In this episode, we will talk about the early life of Hernando de Soto, his first expeditions to South America, and his history-making journey into North America. Like many of the era's conquistadors, Hernando de Soto came from the impoverished Extremadura region of southwestern Spain. He came into the world during the year 1496 in Jerez de los Caballeros. His known siblings include a brother named Juan Méndez de Soto and two sisters named Catalina and Maria de Soto. De Soto's family was of minor nobility and modest means. His father hoped that young Hernando would study at the University of Salamanca and become a lawyer to better the family's fortunes. However, the thought of military glory and immense rewards led young Hernando to dream of making his fortune in the newly discovered Americas. Around the age of 14, De Soto left for Seville, where he joined an expedition to the West Indies led by Pedro Arias de Villa in 1514. De Soto earned a fortune during de Villa's conquest of Panama and Nicaragua. By 1530, he became the leading slave trader in Nicaragua. After the death of de Villa in 1531, De Soto left his estates in Nicaragua and joined Francisco Pizarro for his expedition into South America. Previously, De Soto lent Pizarro 2 ships to investigate rumors of gold in present-day northwestern Colombia. In return for the use of his ships, Pizarro named De Soto his chief lieutenant during the conquest. De Soto, as the expedition's captain of horse, played a leading role in the Spaniards defeating the Incas at the Battle of Cajamarca and capturing their emperor Atahualpa. For more than a year, De Soto served as a go-between for the captive emperor and his Spanish captors. Finally, Pizarro's men executed Atahualpa, the last Incan emperor, in 1533, despite the Incas assembling a huge ransom in gold and silver for his release. Atahualpa converted to Christianity after being told the Spaniards would strangle rather than burn him, for the Inca believed the soul could not survive without the body intact. In an act of cruel spite, Pizarro and De Soto accepted Atahualpa's conversion, strangled him, and then burned his remains after he died. From this crime, De Soto gained a fortune when the Spaniards divided the ransom. He later became lieutenant governor of the city of Cusco and participated in Pizarro's founding of the new capital at Lima in 1535. In 1536, De Soto returned home as one of the wealthiest conquistadors of his age. During a brief stay in his home country, he married de Villa's daughter, Isabel de Bobadilla. Despite having a new wife and a new home, De Soto grew restless when he heard stories about Cabeza de Vaca's exploration of Florida. Enticed by rumors of gold, De Soto sold his belongings and used the money to prepare an expedition to North America. He obtained a royal commission to conquer and settle the region known as La Florida, now in the southeastern United States and the site of earlier explorations by Juan Ponce de Leon. De Soto set out from Spain in April 1538 with 10 ships and 700 soldiers, including servants, staff, 200 horses, and a pack of bloodhounds. After a stop in Cuba, the expedition landed in Tampa Bay in May 1539. They moved inland and set up camp for the winter at a small Indian village near present-day Tallahassee. To convince the indigenous nations that he was not a man but a god, De Soto dressed in bright clothes, carried iron weapons, and always appeared on horseback. Most of the indigenous nations, having never seen horses before, believed De Soto to be some sort of half-man, half-horse monster. De Soto's party encountered a man named Juan Ortiz, a survivor from an earlier expedition who lived with the natives for 12 years. He became De Soto's interpreter as he marched inland searching for gold, a passage to China, and another rich empire to plunder. In the spring, De Soto led his men north through modern-day Georgia. Though they did not find the gold they sought, the female chieftain of the Cofitakeki turned over the tribe's pearls to De Soto in exchange for leaving them in peace. De Soto moved through the Carolinas and Tennessee, guided by indigenous Americans whom he took captive along the way. He used his overwhelming force and claims to be a god to coerce these tribes to turn men over to guide him and help move his goods. With no success in finding gold, the Spaniards headed back south into Alabama towards Mobile Bay, hoping to meet up with their ships. There they came under attack by an indigenous war party near present-day Mobile in October 1540. During the bloody battle that followed, the Spaniards killed hundreds of indigenous warriors, but suffered terrible losses themselves. Worst of all, they lost their horses and the indigenous laborers who hauled their baggage, who vanished into the forest. After a month's rest, the ever-ambitious De Soto made the fateful decision to turn northward again and search for more treasure. In mid-1541, the Spaniards sighted the Mississippi River. De Soto and his fellow Spaniards called the Rio Grande for its immense size. They crossed it and headed into Arkansas and Louisiana, but in early 1542, De Soto turned back towards the Mississippi River. Fever suddenly struck him and he died on May 21st, 1542 in Louisiana. At the time of his death, De Soto owned 4 Indian slaves, 3 horses, and 700 hogs. It is said that his comrades wrapped his body in cloaks packed with sand and cast it into the Mississippi River. They buried him in secret lest the natives learn De Soto was in fact not a god. De Soto's successor, Luis de Moscoso, led the remnants of the expedition, now reduced by half, on rafts down the Mississippi River. Moscoso traveled down the river to the Gulf of Mexico, then made his way down the Texas coast to New Spain, finally reaching Veracruz in late 1543. Ironically, the river De Soto, called the Rio Grande, would be replaced with the indigenous name Mayot Masipi, or Father of the Waters. Hernando de Soto is considered one of the most important Spanish conquistadors because of his discovery of the Mississippi River, and many parks, towns, countries, and institutions have been named after him in the United States. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.